Thank you for joining us today in Jennifer Schaus and Associates Complimentary Webinar Series. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C. today. This year, on Fridays, we are covering the Procurement Playbook. We will take a deep dive into doing business with the federal agencies and departments with our panelists. On Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, we will cover the FAR supplements or procurement regulations for the agencies and departments. And Fridays, we will cover the business and development and marketing aspect of the same agency and departments. The full schedule and the sign-up links and the recordings are on our website. We would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Virginia PTAC at GMU offers a free one-on-one counseling in firms in Virginia on federal, state, and local procurement topics. Online resources and group trainings are free with no restriction on business location. If you're interested in learning more, please use the links provided to explore what PTACs can offer. And a special thanks to our sponsor, the Federal Business Council. The FBC creates and manages virtual and in-person meetings and events to connect appropriate industry and government thought leaders, product providers, and solutions with government programs that use them. The FBC works with admission-specific programs for a variety of agencies to connect government and industry in the form of in-person and virtual conferences, training events, policy dialogue, and outreach. Over the last 40 plus years, the FBC has become a comprehensive resource for connecting industry and federal government. DASTN is an IT and cloud solutions provider working with corporations, the military, and government agencies to lower their costs, increase scalability, improve operational efficiency, and meet compliance regulations using targeted cloud-based solutions. DASTN is a certified partner of Oracle NetSuite, a premier tier Google Cloud partner, and a certified partner of Cisco, Virtue, AO Docs, and Authenticate. For more information about DASTN services or to schedule a complimentary consultation, email joe.alston or visit the DASTN website. Please join us at the Kennedy Center for a night of networking with over 200 federal contractors. Our quarterly event will take place on Monday, June 20th. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Federal agencies will be present and will be listed as they confirm. Please note that ticket prices rise on June 13th. We hope to see you there. Today, we are covering the U.S. Department of Commerce. Our panelists today are Archiza Meehan. Thank you, Archiza, for our friends at GovSpend. Great to have you with us, Archiza.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And next, we have Ferdinand Dijon from the U.S. Department of Commerce also joining us today. Great to have you, Ferdinand.
Yes, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. All right, now we will look into business opportunities and contracting trends within FedMine. Archiza, I'll mute myself now and just let me know when you're ready for your next slide. The floor is yours.
Perfect, then let's get to the next slide. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Archiza Meehan, and I'm the FedMine Senior Product Manager at FedMine, a GovSpend company. Thank you, Jennifer, for including me in the Playbook series, and I'm excited to be here for today's session on the Department of Commerce. So a little bit about FedMine. FedMine was founded way back in 2004 by a founder who was actually a federal government contractor. We went live with our platform in 2007, and what we really do is integrate all the various federal data sets into one easy-to-use platform, which allows us to provide our clients with the most accurate information, transparency, and clear accountability in the world of federal government contracting. Allows you to do all kinds of reporting and analysis, which can be very interesting as we get more into the data. We were acquired by GovSpend in summer of last year, and now we provide both not only the best in the federal data, but also amazing state, local, and education spend data and bits. So that's just a little bit about us. Next slide. So, whenever I start talking about an agency, I think, or as a client or a company, when we want to focus on an agency or understand if the agency is the right, is right for us, it always helps to understand the mission of an agency. So when I was looking at the Department of Commerce, I actually was I found it very interesting to get to that, to understand that actually this agency has a very rich history going back to the 1700s to its formal creation in 1913. And truly, the Department of Commerce mission is to create conditions for economic growth and opportunity for all communities. And through its 13 bureaus, the agency really works to drive U.S. economic competitiveness, strengthen domestic industry, and spur the growth of quality jobs in all communities across the country. The department serves as the voice of business in the federal government, and at the same time, the department touches and serves every American every day. And I think when you sort of get into this mission statement, you sort of understand all the various bureaus that sort of come under this agency and gives you a lot of clarity. It was also, I think, important for me to share what the strategic goals are, because this is going to tie into their budget initiatives as we look into the future. So the strategic goals, again, I find this very interesting, is to drive U.S. innovation and global competitiveness, foster inclusive capitalism and equitable economic growth, address the climate crisis, expand opportunity and discovery through data, and provide 21st century service with 21st century capabilities. Sort of really tells us exactly what the agency is doing and what it is going to be focusing on. So, let's get to the next slide. So let's talk about how has the agency done? What is it doing? This is a quick overview of their spend over the last 4 years. FY21 saw a drop over FY20, down to $4.5 billion, and that was awarded to a little less than 5,000 companies. What I found very interesting, and hats off to the Department of Commerce and all its bureaus, 47% of the contracts were awarded as small business contracts, or to be more specific, this is where the contracting officer makes a determination that it is a small business at the time of award. Have a look at your top bureaus. Again, I'm sure none of us are really surprised to see that NOAA is our top bureau with almost less than $2 billion. But we also have the US PTO, Census Bureau, and NIST following right there. So again, always good to know what's happening in an agency, how's the spending within a bureau. Now, this is done based on contracting office. I'm sure if we do the search based on funding office, the results might be a little different. So next slide. So let's look at who are the top companies. No surprises, T-Rex, Harris, Raytheon, Accenture, Deloitte, Hensel Phelps Construction. These are all your top companies overall for the agency. Also, let's look at how is the agency used its set-asides. And again, we see a good mix of the small business set-asides, 8As, and then always good to see women-owned small business set-asides, and sole source awards. So next slide. So how is the agency buying? What are the various NAICS codes that they are buying? And for those of you who've heard me before, I'm also going to tell you to focus on the PSC codes, because when you start overlaying the PSC codes and the NAICS codes, you get a much better idea of what an agency is truly purchasing, because the PSC codes, I think, give you a lot more information than just looking at the top NAICS codes. But in this case, the top NAICS codes very much include a lot of the computer-related NAICS codes, consulting, NAICS codes, commercial and construction, especially when you think about the fact that Hensel Phelps was one of the top companies, sort of ties in. Also, of course, there will be R&D and engineering services. So it's a pretty nice mix of NAICS codes. And in this case, the PSC codes and NAICS codes almost match. So, sometimes we see it differ quite a bit. But in this case, both of them seem more in line with each other, if I can say that. So next slide. So let's sort of look a little bit more into the small businesses. So we have almost 50% of the overall agency's contracts going as small business. Looking at it in terms of dollar values, we have a little more than $2 billion that was awarded to about 3,600 companies, which is huge. In terms of your top businesses, T-Rex Solutions, CSP Enterprises, Spatial Front, Blue Tech, nice mix of companies. But a lot of them seem to be in the technology and computer related fields. Next slide. And that sort of takes us straight into the NAICS codes, and you could see very much a lot of R&D, computer-related services as your top NAICS codes for women-owned small businesses. Not women-owned, total small businesses. But it's also good to see that, we have almost $45 million that went under the facility support services. In terms of set-asides, small business set-asides, well, more than 600 million, but we do see women-owned small businesses, getting almost 66 million in set-asides. 8A sole source and 8A completed a little less than 300 million, a little bit into HubZone, and then of course we have a little more than $5 million that goes as women-owned sole source awards. So again, nice to see the mix, nice to see other categories in this mix of set-asides. If I go back to 2019, 2018, it is a little different, especially now, especially with the new initiatives and the new emphasis on minority-owned businesses, economically disadvantaged businesses. I'm sure we will see these numbers and set-asides and sole sources really change. So let's go to the next slide. So with the pandemic, I'm always going to look at, what has the agency done in terms of contracts that were awarded under the COVID National Interest Action Code. So in 2020, in FY20, we have almost $310 million that were awarded under this National Interest Action Code. Of these contracts, they were awarded to about 185 companies. A little less than $32 million was awarded as small business contracts. And interestingly, the advertising and computer-related NAICS codes accounted for a little less than 200 million. So you have the link to that report throughout the presentation. Feel free to get into more details of those. In terms, if I'm looking at the FY21 COVID spend, little less than 20 million went to 198 companies, and 98% of those contracts were awarded as small business contracts. So again, nice to see the mix, and next slide. Looking at SBIR's programs, not much happening here, at least in terms of contract awards, with a little less than $4 million being awarded to 50 companies. All of these awards were as small business contracts. So next slide. And the reason I talk about SBIRs and STTRs is the fact that, with the initiatives that we are seeing more and more, towards technology, the initiatives for cyber and everything, it's always important to go in and see what contracts are being awarded as SBIRs and STTRs, because of course the process is different, the way they are released is different, but I think it gets to be important to keep at least have that in the back of our minds as we are looking at an agency. Some agencies will do a lot of OTAs. At that point, you should always also look at what's happening in that OTA world. So having said that, let's go in and start looking at the categories. This is looking at GSA's categories, and GSA's categories are based off the PSC codes. So that importance to PSC codes is very much there. And a lot of times I believe that looking at the top categories gives us a much better idea of how are the agencies procuring. You could, of course, get down to a bureau level and do this breakout, which then gives you an even better idea at a bureau level. But in this case, and then always looking at it, small business, other than small business, gives you more clarity and allows you to create your strategy, whether you want to start looking at tying up with those large businesses, or you want to use your or focus on the small business categories. Quick look here: professional services, IT, facilities and construction are all your top categories. Pay attention on the way you see how the small and other than small business contracts are being awarded. And again, very much almost at a 50-50 type of mix, which is why the agency has done so well in its goals. So next slide. So further looking into an agency spend with the initiative for strategic sourcing, category management, it now gets to be even more important to keep an eye on how an agency is procuring, whatever it needs on all these various vehicles. I'm always going to advise people that use your NAICS codes, use keywords to really get a better understanding on what are your top vehicles, whether you should go and try and get on one of these when the period ramp up period opens, or whether you should be on a follow on, or you should actually start looking at creating those relationships to work with companies that might already be on these vehicles. NASA SIP 5, CIO SP3, Alliant 2, all top GVACs that are being used by the Department of Commerce. Of course, all of these will be more technology-based GVACs than anything else. And then you also have the Protect satellite vehicle, which is also used, and I want to say that might be a Department of Commerce vehicle, but I'm not sure. So keep in mind as we are going through, as we are deciding to focus on an agency or not, understanding how, what the overall trends are, start delving in deeper, whether you want to use NAICS codes, keywords, a combination of those, understand purchases, whether what's going as small business, other than small business, allows us all, focus in on creating those relationships. If you're a small business and you see what you do is really, those contracts are going as large businesses, do you want to tie up with those agencies, work with the small business offices? And, just the idea is to give you that clarity and data to create your strategies and do that market research. So next slide. So that sort of takes us into the opportunities piece. What is an opportunity at an agency? Of course, you have new opportunities that are based on new initiatives, which is based on the funding that and the agencies need. And then, of course, you have contracts that are expiring that could be recompeted. So how do you get that information? So you want to look at all the budget and program information, and I would say the agencies really do a very good job of making sure that the budgets are made public, and in many cases it's really, really detailed information. Look at those pre-solicitations and source of sort notices that are released in sam.gov. This is where you see a lot. This is one of the ways that an agency is doing its market research. They want to understand what commercial solutions might be there. They want to understand which firms are capable of providing the services that they might be looking for. Is there anything new out there? So always make sure that if there is something that you can do make sure that you actually respond to these pre-solicitations and source of sort notices. And then create these expiring contract searches based on what you do. Look at, if you're on a vehicle or a GSA schedule or a BPA, use those keyword combinations and see, is there something that you can do? If you are an 8A, if you're a relatively new 8A, look at contracts based on 8A expiration dates. So there's a lot of ways that you can slice and dice the data. But the idea of doing that is to create a pipeline of opportunities that are really suited to the type of work that you do, or you want to do, or you want to get into. So having said that, let's get into the next slide. Also look at the Exhibit 53s, which gives you a very good idea of what is that total IT spend that has been budgeted for these major program initiatives. So in this case, this is just to give you a look at the top 10 at the top level. What are the top IT program initiatives and investments? Next slide. And then, wherever possible, get into the Exhibit 300s. Do keyword searches or just do a quick overview of every agency. Get into those details, understand what it is, and the program, the Exhibit 300s will give you those program manager names. So use all of that data that is made public and available to create your strategies. So next slide. So quick look at our expiring contracts that were awarded as other than small business. Have almost $4 billion that are expiring. Top companies or top contracts are with Harris, CDW, Hensel Phelps, Dell Federal Systems. So, sort of ties in with what we saw, in terms of the top companies also. Next slide. And then again, look at your top NAICS codes. We do have a mix of commercial, environment consulting, engineering services, and then the entire computer services NAICS codes. Next slide. In terms of small business expiring contracts, a little less than $2 billion that are expiring. Top companies that have these expiring contracts include Spatial Front, Arctic Slope, ASRC, Thundercat, Paradigm Management. So these are just some of the contracts that are expiring. Now, of course, not all of them might be recompeted, but this is where you want to drill in, look at the task order details, or use a platform that allows you to do the keyword searches to really come down with a list of contracts that are expiring that you believe could be recompeted based on what you do. Next slide. Further, in terms of the small business contracts that are expiring, again, a lot of facility support, computer-related services, but have a look at those set-asides and pay attention if you're an 8A on the 8A sole sources that are being, that are out there that could be recompeted. See when those 8As are expiring. Also, same thing goes with those hub zones. Analyze those, but use these types of set-aside categories to truly get a better understanding of where is it that you could possibly go after those recompetes, create those relationships within the agencies with the existing primes, whether small or large. All of these are strategies that we see our most successful clients do really successfully. So next slide. So this is just like a quick look at, what are the top, I think I did this early this week on the 12th, and these are your top, and I just did a search for commerce, for overall commerce. I didn't go into any of the bureaus, and I did a search for pre-solicitations and sources sought notices only. So this is a nice way of understanding what is coming out, that entire market research focus. So go ahead, save them, respond to them if it is what you do. So next slide. So, once we've sort of gone through, understood what an agency is doing, understood the mission, understood the strategic initiatives, understood, your possible competitors, the possible teaming partners that you could work with, understood where, the people at an agency or bureau that you want to make relationships with, got that information that you now can use to have a good conversation with the small business officers. Let's also keep in mind that you want to look at the budget. So the FY23 budget has been released, a proposed budget, where, and I was going through it, and I sort of just wrote or put on the slide just some of the things that I've personally found interesting. But it sort of, and the reason I found it interesting was because I think it sort of ties in with what the new administration is focusing on. So the revitalizing of American manufacturing is huge. We have almost 275 million for manufacturing extension partnerships to enable 51 centers, $100 million for cybersecurity and privacy activities, which again is huge, with with all the copyright infringement issues and things like that. This and the whole cybersecurity world that we are living in, all of this money and funding is required, I guess, and it's good to see these items in the budget. Protecting the national security interests and enforcing trade rules. So important. Pay attention to USPTO's $4.1 billion in budget authority that is proposed. The Bureau of Industry and Security is going to be getting $66 million more than the FY21 enacted level. Another 124 million for enforcement and compliance. All of this is huge. Advancing US leadership in the global commercial space industry. I found it very interesting to see an almost $88 million funding for the Office of Space Commerce to create a civil operational space situational awareness capability that meets the industry's needs. This was very interesting for me. Putting aside $110 million for the Minority Business Development Authority, another $502 million for the Economic Development Administration, including $80 million to assist communities that are impacted by changes in the coal industry. So a lot of very key initiatives, a lot of good thought that seems to have gone into the specific budget. And I did want to make sure I share all of this information with you. Next slide. Addressing the climate crisis, right? Almost a $7 billion budget from an increase over the FY21 enacted levels. The amount of money that's going into the environmental satellite and data information services industry. Investments in the next generation of weather satellites by providing $664 million and additional monies being spent for weather satellites and the Space Weather Next program of $145 million. $86 million for R&D high performance computing. 91 million for climate competitive research. A lot of very key initiatives that are planned where we have budgets or planning for to help our current situation, and it all really ties in with that Department of Commerce mission. Another 1.5 billion to the Census Bureau for transformation to the 21st century data-centric model. And I did read a little bit about it, and it's very interesting. So I would really, really encourage all of you to go into the budget and see the details. And then they also have another 50 million to implement the Executive Order 15028 for improving the nation's cybersecurity. So again, a lot of good information in the budget. I would highly recommend, if this is an agency that you're focusing on, to use the data that I've provided, hopefully, and overlay the budget with it and plan your strategy for focusing on the Department of Commerce. So again, it's super nice to be here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. And, I guess, Krista, I'm going to give it back to you.
Thank you, Archisha, for the great overview. Now let's move into the inside perspective from the government. Once again, I want to welcome Dejan Ferdinand. I'll mute myself now and just let me know when you're ready for the next slide. Great to have you, Dejan. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here. I am Dejan Ferdinand, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Bridget Boykin, and we will be providing inside perspective. Now, we represent the U.S. Census Bureau, that is a bureau under Commerce. So we work very closely with the Department of Commerce as a whole. As a bureau, we have our responsibility and our small business goals that we have to ensure that we are advocating for small businesses and contributing to the department's goals. So I really was great to hear all that research and information that was provided, because that actually was very helpful to me as well. And I learned a lot about the information and the budget. I'm actually contracting officer that also work with overseeing the small business programs within the Census Bureau. And actually next week will be exactly 20 years I've been working in contracting at the Census Bureau. So a lot of the initiatives that were mentioned, including I was a contracting officer on the recently, we awarded a enterprise cybersecurity effort. We did that via the General Services Administration, so the GSA schedule. They have a schedule dealing with highly adaptive cybersecurity systems. So it's basically the HOXIN cybersecurity effort that we awarded via GSA to a small business, by the way. It was a small business set-aside initiative, so we're very proud of that as we continue to advocate for small businesses. With the next slide, next slide basically provides a link to the SBA contracting scorecard for commerce. So a lot of what you heard about what we do for small businesses, you can look at our scorecard and see, where we continue to meet our goals, but overall, we also continue to search and seek small businesses that have capabilities and core competencies to meet our needs, because we always feel we can never do enough. The more opportunities we can provide to small businesses to the maximum extent, that will continue to help us not just meet, but exceed our goals. So as I mentioned, as a bureau, we're responsible for contributing to the whole department. So I'm proud to say the Census Bureau, we are probably the main reason the department continues to meet their hub zone goals, because we have done a great job in awarding hub zone set-aside initiatives. So we are a major contributor in that area that I'm proud of, as well as other socioeconomic goals that are very important, of course, but I just wanted to highlight the hub zone aspect. So we do work very closely with the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. So that's the OSBU office. Director Lejeune Desmukes, who we work with probably on a daily basis to ensure that we are, like I said, doing our part in contributing and representing the Department of Commerce as one of the operating units. We also work closely with NIST, with NOAA. I know I heard the mention of Protect, and that is a NOAA vehicle that they utilize. Within the Census Bureau, we have our own vehicle, such as the Systems Engineering and Integration vehicle. That's our SE&I vehicle that folks may be aware of, that is soon expiring. However, we do have option extension on that vehicle, so we're utilizing and looking at the services that we may continue to have needs for. So those are some internal discussions that continue to go on, and we analyze what we will continue to need. And we want to make sure that we are continue to communicate with the vendor community and keeping them in the loop anytime we get inquiries in reference to a lot of those initiatives that you may have seen were expiring, because we're always looking at and seeing, what other vehicle will best suit our needs, whether it's NIH, NITAC, NASA SOUP, GSA schedule. We really try to continuously conduct our market research to analyze where the core capabilities lie to align with our needs. So that's what we always try to do. We also are working closely with folks at the Department of Commerce directly. Right now, they are looking at solicitation dealing with the Commerce Acquisition for Transformation Technology Services. That's a acronym used for that is CAT. So I know that solicitation is supposed to be out on the streets if it's not there already, but that is a vehicle as a bureau under Commerce that we will be looking to utilize to basically adhere to some of our needs and services that were previously being provided under our current Systems Engineering and Integration Services vehicle. Next slide. The next slide provides a link to our Commerce, basically procurement forecast. One of the things I will say at Census, we continue to try to update our forecast, but really work with our customers and engage at an early enough standpoint where we're really doing advanced planning. I think one of the things is one thing to have a forecast, but really the purpose is to have that advanced forecast to be able to advise vendors of things that's coming down the pipelines. So we're really trying to continuously improve that process and engage at the earlier stages. A lot of times we know when vendors get word of requirements and it's already out on the street, it's kind of late in the game. So we want to make sure that early engagement's taking place. So I know, as mentioned, when you see those sources stop, yes, please respond and let us know, what your capabilities and core competencies are, and show that you've done your due diligence and your homework, and ask certain pertinent questions to understand what it is we need, and we want to understand what you've done to be able to match and align with those needs. The more we can learn up front, it helps better define our needs and our requirements. And as myself, working as a contracting officer and also working with overseeing the small business programs and working with my colleague Bridget, we can help better get some questions answered and try to align those capabilities with the upcoming needs. So if we can get that information in advance, we can only help the vendors understand what it is we need early enough in the process. Next slide. Once again, this talks about the scorecard information. So that's a link you can go to and get that information on our scorecard. Next slide, we talk about getting connected. One of the things we've been trying to revamp is the continuous development of our small business opportunities page as we continue to meet and learn about small businesses. And I like to not just say small businesses, I like to say highly qualified small businesses, because I do understand the basically expertise and capabilities that small businesses bring to the table, and I continuously work with my program office customers to educate them on that. So one of the things we've been trying to do is continue to build out what we call a small business opportunities page, where we provide vendors with information on how to connect with ourselves as the small business representatives of the office, and also share their capabilities and inquire about some of those upcoming opportunities I was talking about. So it's really just like keeping a portfolio of the small businesses that we engage with. And as we continue to learn about new small businesses, we want to tie them to the different federal contracting opportunities. So that's one of the things that we're trying to continue to revamp and build out our small business opportunities page. So businesses, in addition to going on, the GPE and so forth on SAM.gov and other sources like GSA schedule and so forth, they can also come to our small business opportunity page and see what opportunities we may have coming down the pipeline. Next slide. So talking about one of the things that Bridget and I have recently joined along with Lejeune Desmux, who I mentioned is the Director of Audits of Commerce, we have helped form what we call an Interagency Executive Roundtable Committee. And that committee is not just representative of commerce, but it's basically with other statistical agencies. Right now, we're only working with like 3 other statistical agencies, such as National Science Foundation, Department of Education, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we are looking to eventually engage with other statistical federal agencies. But right now, we just have this small committee, and we focus a lot, and we serve as active participants with the executives within those different statistical agencies. And our overall goal really is to focus on how to connect small business contractors with the federal statistical agencies for the purpose of achieving our agency mission as well as our small business goals. So we really want to get those key executive decision makers and help them document for us different challenges that they face and different things that they feel they have a need for, so we can be able to provide that information to the small business community. That way, when the small business community are able to get a seat at the table in front of the executives or provide white papers or whatever have you, they are able to display how they understand those challenges and how they can possibly help meet some of those challenges. So that's one of the things that we have set up this committee with the different statistical agencies, representatives from all the eligible offices who sit on these on the IER committee. And so far, we've had two meetings with these executives, and right now we're in the process of creating a request for information that will go out representing some of those challenges that we've captured that's been documented that the executives have provided back to us. So we are finalizing that information to be able to release on SAM.gov in the near future. Next slide. As far as diversity inclusion, we are committed to diversifying our contractor supplier pool by conducting targeted market research. We work to identify the different socioeconomic and small businesses and engage early in the acquisition process once the need and requirement is identified. So as I mentioned, we don't want our program offices, which have the requirements to wait late in the process. We want them to come to us early on so we can engage and understand their need, and also continue to educate our workforce on practical ways to access the capabilities of the socioeconomic and small businesses. And we work closely to devise different strategies to increase the small business participation. Our small business specialist, who is currently Bridget Boykin, and like I said, I'll let her say a few words, but Bridget is definitely an expert of the small business programs, and also she has very in-depth experience in working with small businesses, and we work definitely cooperatively together to engage our acquisition workforce, such as our contracting officers, our program managers, our task managers, and all others on the acquisition planning team to help guide them in formulating strategies to conduct, opportunities for small businesses to lead to small business. I also did want to mention at the Census Bureau, we've definitely continued to receive Small Business Goal Achievement Awards at our Department of Commerce. We actually have what we call a Big A conference we do every year in May. We'll be doing one next month. And at that conference, we will be receiving an award for our Small Business Goal Achievement. So I do feel like we want to recognize when we do well as where we have areas for improvement. So definitely wanted to shout that out. So our small business specialist, definitely Bridget understands the unique challenges of small businesses, and therefore, she basically, I would like, and Bridget, I'll let you speak for yourself, but I know you actually are always motivated to take on the challenges when it comes to, ensuring that small businesses get consideration to the maximum extent and continuously dealing with the contracting officers and educating the workforce. So I definitely appreciate working with Bridget and all she does in that area. Some of the challenges, I know we mentioned unique challenges, is that, with our census work, a lot of times we do these different survey work and different things that you all may see. And a lot of times our challenges are really convincing our program officers with the needs of the small business capabilities to meet their needs. Because when we get dependent on certain sources, we maybe sometimes fail to recognize how much the landscape may have grown. I know we were mentioning some of the challenges that we faced during COVID, especially, different things that may have made our actions a little bit more urgent than they would have been, and different things we had to be more reactive, trying to get out ahead of. So one of the things that we continuously try to do is, when those urgent needs come about, ensuring that we're working with our customers and not just having them be dependent on sources that they know, but trying to continuously do our due diligence and market research and educate them on the capabilities and core competencies of small businesses out there to help them meet their needs. So it was definitely a challenge each and every day, I would say, as we continue to educate our workforce in the capabilities small businesses have. So I just want to continuously advise small businesses to don't hold back. When you feel that you have capabilities, definitely throw your name in the hat. Even if you feel that you're not sure, ask the pertinent questions. Make sure you get the feedback and details to help you understand the needs, so that you don't shortchange yourself and we can clearly understand your capabilities. Because, like I said, we're fighting for small businesses. So when we do that, we want to be in the fight and the battle with you to make sure that our program officers that have the need and our executives clearly understand the wealth of experience that small businesses bring. A lot of times there's confidence in large businesses, and folks don't understand the wealth of core competencies that small businesses have. So we want to continue to learn more so we can continue to educate. And like I said, we advocate for the small businesses, so we are all in this together. And Bridget, I'll hand it over to you to talk more about some of the barriers and some of our stakeholder collaboration.
Well, thank you so much, DJ, and well said, and wonderful representation of our department as a whole. Yes, again, thank you so much for the brief introduction. My name is Bridget Boykin, and I am the Small Business Specialist for the United States Census Bureau. Next slide, and I'm so sorry we cannot see the slides right now, but we will next be discussing avoiding barriers. At the department, as a small business specialist, which will be myself, we're charged with the responsibility of collaborating with stakeholders at the Office of Small Business and Disadvantaged Utilization. And as Mr. Dejan mentioned, Ms. Lejeune Desmute, we get to work hand in hand with her on a daily basis. And also the Small Business Administration assigned Procurement Center Representative, Ms. Tamala Lewis. We worked collaboratively together to identify any barriers within our acquisition strategies. When we say barriers, for example, it could be inadequate information or restrictive language that might discourage small businesses from competing for our federal contracting opportunities. We want to always make sure that when we're publicizing to industry that we are ensuring that the information is put across clearly so you can actually understand what the requirement is asking for. We also want to make sure that we're not getting into the realms of asking for things such as past performance. And I'm sure a lot of you all know that that is when the evaluation stage comes in. At the department, all requirements for both new and reoccurring that are not being set aside goes through a stringent review process. So we ensure that small businesses are, one, given first consideration and fair opportunity to compete for our federal contracts. Additionally, we provide oversight to ensure that our business advisors, which will be our contracting officers, in addition to our program areas, are conducting adequate market research. And we also want to ensure that they're analyzing the core capabilities of entities fairly in conjunction with the requirements of interest, and while focusing on achieving and or exceeding our small business goals. Next slide, please. Historically, as Dejan mentioned, we do have to give ourselves kudos. Census has achieved and or exceeded our prime contracting goals each fiscal year. And the way that we have done that is by committing to achieving clear, actionable, and measurable goals. We focus on not only the success of our Bureau, but also how impactful providing opportunities to small businesses would help the Department of Commerce as a whole. Each fiscal year, we are committed to continue achieving and or exceeding our Bureau's goals. And this year, it was very fun to interact with our acquisition teams, because I always like to set like a challenge up front each year when we receive our small business goals. So this year, our theme is Thinking Smart, and I'm sure a lot of businesses are very familiar with this goal achievement model, SMART, which is being specific, setting specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based goals. When planning new and reoccurring requirements, we do take the pride in ensuring that our business advisors and program areas are equipped with the knowledge and resources to set realistic goals and achieve our departmental goals each year. A few things that I also wanted to hint it on, embracing change, especially as Dejan mentioned, in this day and time with COVID, it has impacted the way we interact. I'm not sure who is on the line or if you have any opportunities currently with Census. I'm sure sometimes you remember being able to walk around the business and interact with different stakeholders. That has definitely changed. So we're now in a virtual environment, and I will always encourage the continuous communication. You have to be the driving force behind your business. While we all do take on multiple responsibilities, it is the duty, especially for my role, to ensure that we put small businesses in front of the decision makers. We also are maximizing industry's capabilities. As Dejan stated, if you feel that you are capable of fulfilling a requirement for the federal government, please, by all means, submit those capability statements, submit questions. It doesn't hurt. The worst that anyone can say to you is no. Engaging early. When opportunities are publicized, this is your time to shine and to advocate for your business. Reach out to the point of contact that may be listed on the source of SALT or the request for information to learn more about the opportunity. You can contact me as always to set up some engagement sessions or capability briefings with your technical area. Be assertive while exercising emotional intelligence. This is a perfect time, again, to establish interpersonal and networking relationships with different stakeholders, such as the technical area, contracting officers, and again, myself, the small business specialist that can put you in front of the right people. And one of my favorite things is to focus on the end results. I feel that one of the greatest rewards is to continuously be a part of the start, growth, and expansion of small and socioeconomic small businesses. As Dejan mentioned, the same way that we give large business the credit, we have to give our small business the credit. You all are the driving force behind the successful and expansion of a lot of these businesses that we see every day. So we just have to thank you for all that you do. Next slide, please. Again, while working in a virtual environment stemming from the COVID pandemic, it was imperative that we continue our engagement sessions and opportunities with industry. At Census currently, I host a weekly virtual small business tag-up session, and they're held for about 30 minutes, but of course I do make accommodations if need be. And we focus on bringing in our external and internal stakeholders, which is our unique way of conducting our matchmaking sessions with the industry in our technical area. Small businesses in each social economic category are afforded the opportunity to schedule sessions with myself, whether it be the contracting officer specialist, OSBU, the program areas, the cores. We try to pull in any and everybody that can definitely make a difference in the way that we're analyzing the capabilities of industry. These sessions are used to assist with acquisition planning teams to learn about the corporate capabilities of industry in comparison with census forecasted requirements. In a nutshell, during these sessions, some of the resources that you'll be provided with, I assist you with finding opportunities through our Commerce Business Opportunity Tool, also known as CBOT, and we always encourage you to look in the government point of entry, which will be sam.gov. We also provide step-by-step instructions on registering in SAM and other government databases. I always encourage to make sure that your information is reflective in the dynamic small business search tool at Census that has been a push recently to familiarize our staff with utilizing that resource. We also refer vendors to the National Customer Service Center at the General Services of Administration, GSA, on the enrollment and or boarding process of the government acquisition contract, also known as the GWAC, or the multiple award schedules, the MAS. And then lastly, explaining the acquisition process and different mechanisms that Census uses to solicit and promote competition amongst socioeconomic and small businesses. So again, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity for allowing us to share this wonderful information with you, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to our great speakers and panelists, Archisha, Dejan, and Bridget, our sponsors, and everyone who attended the presentation today. The recording and slides will be available by close of business Monday. We look forward to seeing you next week as we dig into the Department of Energy. The FAR supplement will be on Wednesday and the Playbook on Friday. The registration links are on our website. And thank you so much for attending. Once again, please join us at the Kennedy Center for a night of networking with over 200 federal contractors. Our quarterly event will take place Monday, June 20th. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Federal agencies will be present and will be listed as they confirm. Please note that ticket prices increase on June 13th. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good weekend.